The elevator stops between the 4th and 5th floors. Not at a door. Between. The light flickers. Then steadies. On the wall, inches from the buttons, a poster reads, "Life is becoming better." The cables hold. The cabin does not move. The sentence does. No alarm sounds. No announcement follows. Just a low metallic hum above the ceiling panel. Someone presses the button again. Nothing changes. The poster remains flat against the steel. A young worker looks upward from the printed surface. Clean lines. Clear horizon. Bright apartment blocks rising behind him. Outside this cabin, similar buildings fill entire districts. Concrete rectangles. Stacked vertically. Identical windows. Identical balconies. Identical entrances. Upward construction defined the landscape of post-war Soviet cities. Fields became foundations. Foundations became floors. Floors became proof. Verticality meant movement. Movement meant progress. Inside the elevator, that promise is compressed into one sentence. Life is becoming better. The elevator remains suspended. The building is part of a system. Standardized housing blocks multiplied rapidly from the late 1950s onward. Prefabricated panels. Repeatable layouts. Speed over ornament. Millions of apartments were completed. Waiting lists shortened. Families moved from communal flats into private units. Kitchens were narrow. Walls were thin. But the door closed. And that mattered. Completion numbers were recorded centrally. Square meters were tallied. New districts were mapped. The skyline shifted. Cranes became permanent silhouettes. Vertical construction did more than provide shelter. It provided direction. When buildings rise, they imply motion. When floors stack upward, they suggest progress. Even if daily routines remain unchanged. From street level, the geometry was persuasive. Repetition signaled order. Alignment suggested control. Uniform balconies implied equality. The architecture did not merely house citizens. It instructed them. Upward meant modern. Upward meant forward. Upward meant historical acceleration. Elevators were embedded in that logic. They converted vertical mass into accessible movement. They turned symbolic ascent into physical routine. Press a button. Rise. Arrive. But physical systems obey friction. Cables strain. Motors wear. Doors misalign. The planned economy excelled at measurable output. Foundations poured. Panels installed. Blocks completed. But maintenance exists in smaller units of time. Lubrication. Replacement. Inspection. Interruption. These are harder to monumentalize. Harder to photograph. Harder to celebrate. The skyline could be displayed in newspapers. The stalled elevator could not. And so the visual language of progress remained intact. Because it operated at scale. Scale absorbs anomaly. A cabin paused between floors does not alter the horizon. The building still stands. The floors still exist. The direction remains upward. The elevator's interruption is contained inside the structure. like doubt contained inside language. The phrase did not begin in that building. It circulated through speeches and printed material during the Khrushchev era. Improvement was framed as trajectory, not condition. The future was not described as uncertain. It was described as inevitable. Language operated on projection. Concrete operated on load-bearing limits. The distinction matters. Life is becoming better. Not better. Not will become better. Becoming. The word suspends evaluation. It eliminates the need for arrival. Becoming implies continuity. Continuity implies patience. Patience absorbs delay. Inside the elevator, that grammar acquires physical resonance. The cabin is suspended. The sentence is suspended. Neither has reached its destination. But one claims direction. The power of such phrasing lies in its elasticity. If improvement is incomplete, it confirms the process. If improvement feels distant, it validates duration. The citizen does not measure becoming in minutes. He measures it in eras. Across corridors, stairwells, administrative halls, metro platforms, similar sentences appeared. Repetition converts language into environment. When a phrase is encountered daily, it ceases to function as argument. It becomes orientation. Orientation reduces comparison. Comparison invites friction. The system minimizes friction by stretching time. The elevator's pause exists in mechanical time. The sentence exists in historical time. Mechanical time is immediate. Historical time is indefinite. When these two clocks diverge, the longer one prevails. Because it does not require immediate confirmation. The cabin may restart. Or it may remain still. The phrase remains in motion regardless. The first time the elevator stops, the sentence is noticed. The second time, it is compared. The third time, it is registered. After that, it is simply present. Repetition alters the relationship between word and experience. The poster does not change. The light flickers again on another day. The cabin hesitates between different floors. The phrase remains identical. When a message repeats without variation, it ceases to demand evaluation. It becomes environmental. Like the color of the walls. Like the hum of wiring behind metal panels. The resident no longer reads it fully. The eye recognizes the shape. The red letters. The upward gaze of the printed worker. Recognition replaces reflection. The mind conserves effort. Mechanical interruptions are processed locally. The elevator stopped. The repair will come. Or it will not. The phrase belongs to a different register. It refers to history. To direction. To something larger than the present inconvenience. Over time, expectation recalibrates. Improvement is no longer measured in daily outcomes. It is measured in abstraction. In decades. In comparisons to the past. The cabin's pause is immediate. The sentence refers to a horizon. Immediate events lose argumentative force when placed against horizon time. The resident does not need to reconcile the two. They operate on different scales. The elevator belongs to maintenance. The sentence belongs to movement. When scales separate, contradiction softens. The poster remains in place. The cabin eventually moves. or the resident takes the stairs. In either case, the phrase continues unchallenged. Not because it convinces, but because it persists. By the 1970s, maintenance burdens increased across many districts. Elevator systems aged. Spare components moved through centralized supply chains. Delays accumulated quietly. Residents adapted routines. Some expected interruption. Others calculated stair counts in advance. The pause between floors became procedural rather than surprising. This is where separation deepens. The citizen no longer evaluates the sentence each time the cabin stops. He no longer tests it against each malfunction. Evaluation requires energy. Repetition reduces it. The poster remains fixed. The mechanism fluctuates. Gradually, the two cease interacting. The narrative layer continues uninterrupted. The operational layer continues with adjustments. The mind allocates each to different categories. One belongs to history. One belongs to maintenance. When projection becomes constant, contradiction becomes local. Local issues do not threaten systemic direction. They are absorbed. The elevator's immobility does not erase the sentence. The sentence does not repair the elevator. But neither negates the other. Instead, a stable distance forms. That distance is not enforced through fear. It is stabilized through habit. Citizens move through space without expecting alignment between slogan and mechanism. Expectation recalibrates. The elevator may stall. The system is still becoming. The building may age. The direction is still upward. The word continues operating even when the cable hesitates. In that confined metal space, two structures coexist. One of steel. One of language. Steel requires lubrication. Language requires repetition. Only one of them is easier to maintain. The doors eventually open. The resident exits. The next passenger enters. The poster remains. The number on the panel still reads 4. Between floors. Between verification and projection. Between mechanical gravity and historical promise. The elevator that never reached the future does not collapse. It pauses. And in that pause, the sentence continues its ascent.